everyone, welcome back to the Ben and Danny show. So last week we looked at animations and animating the player character, your main character. So this week, Ben, what are we doing? Well, today, what are we doing?
So normally I have a pretty good answer for this. Normally,
yeah.
Normally I say, "Hey, we're going to look at
doing
animation."
this. Yeah.
So we mentioned this last time. We have. I mean, now we just kind of we're wrapping up a lot of it. So today's mostly just polish. But the reason I don't have a definitive answer is there is quite a few things we need to kind of polish, and what exactly we're going to polish, I think, just comes down to what happens in the screen.
Yeah. So when we were talking about what we're doing today, we had there's a few things we need to polish off and finish, like the jump. So making sure it's actually a jump rather than flying, and having like a score system and a game over system, and like making the door or like the ending an actual ending, and then making sure you know how to go to a new level, or how to create a new level. So I guess we're just gonna see how we go. We might finish it all in this episode. We might have another episode, which I think we might do anyway, just in case people want to ask any questions. I think it's a very loose plan we have.
Yeah, as is kind of the rest of the series. This is mostly unscripted, obviously, and yeah, I think probably the first thing we need to look at is, as Danny said, this jump system, because it's not really a jump system at the moment. It's kind of just flying.
Flying.
Yeah. You can jump in midair as many times as you like, which is essentially flying. I suppose that's what. No, I'm not going to get into that tangent.
Pigs can fly.
No, I was going to say, like birds flapping their wings. It's like kind of jumping without ground check. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna fix that. Okay. There's a couple of other things. So as Danny said, at the moment, if you fall off the level, we haven't encountered this.
I forgot that one.
So we haven't encountered this yet because our level is enclosed. There's no drops down to a bottomless pit where they die or something. It's all very enclosed. So if we can introduce some kind of ledge that people can fall off, we need to be able to, when they fall down that pit or whatever, they die. So we need to program that in. And luckily that's actually quite really easy to do. Another bit of polish we need to have a look at is the lives. So we do have lives. If you remember, we had if the player dies, then we reset them. I think we do have lives in here somewhere. We basically just need to display the lives so that the player knows how many lives they've got. And yeah, some kind of game over system, because at the moment, if you've got 5 lives and you die 5 times, nothing happens. So it'd be good to have something like that. But yeah, I think the first thing to look at, I suppose, is the jump system, because we were talking about this at the end of the last stream. We were talking about how we could possibly fix that. So we talked about either doing it through an extra collider or by doing it manually with like physics.overlap circle and all this kind of stuff. But I think we'll probably go down the route of triggers, because we already know what they are, right?
Yeah.
So it should be fairly straightforward. I think we'll probably get started on that. Get started on the old jump system. So yeah, today's episode is largely just polishing stuff, making it feel more like a game. Because at the moment, yeah, we do have a game and it is playable. We have talked about most of the core things like animation, the diamonds, all this kind of stuff, but we haven't actually polished it to make it actually look like a final releasable project. So that's what we're going to do. Anyways, so at the moment, as you can see, the character here, if we jump, right, there's no checks. I'm just pressing space here to jump. So as you can see, I can just jump in midair right? But we don't want this. We want it to only be able to, if you're on the ground like this, you can jump. But once you're in the air, you can't jump anymore. You have to wait until you're on land again. So how do we do that? Well, we need something that kind of, if you can imagine like a box sitting here as I'm dragging it out. Now, if this box is hitting the ground, then we know that this player is on the ground. Okay, so if I jump now and I press pause, you can imagine this box here. I'm just highlighting this out, and you probably can't see that very well, but there is a box there. If you imagine a box just below this character's feet.
Yeah, it's very small, but you can see it.
Yeah. If you imagine a box there, then what we can say is that if that box is touching something, then we're on ground. So at the moment, this character's in the air, and as you can see, this box isn't touching anything, so we know for a fact that we can't jump because this is in the air, right? So that's pretty much it. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put essentially just a box below this character's feet. So how do we do this? Well, we can use colliders. There are other ways of doing it. Like I said, you can use physics.overlap sphere, and there are some other ways of doing it. They're not very good. I think this is probably the best way.
It's probably the best way to understand, as we've already really explained the concepts and we've explained what colliders are, as you said. So
yeah,
I think it's a good way to go forward.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the character and I'm going to open up the prefab by hitting this little arrow. Okay. So as you can see, I'm editing the prefab now. Now this character over here has a capsule collider. As you can see, this kind of round shape here. This is the actual physical collider for this character. Okay. So this makes sure that they don't fall through the floor. We've already talked about this, right? We've talked about colliders. Now what we want to do is add another collider just underneath here. And if you'll excuse the motorbikes, I've got the window open because it's absolutely boiling in this room.
Boiling, so. Yeah.
So if you can imagine could we put another collider here, but put it underneath? So can we add another collider to this? I think we can actually, but the easiest way to do it is to make a new object underneath this character. So at the moment, the character has a camera attached to it. If we make a new empty object here, okay, so we could create a square or a circle, but we don't want to show the object. Okay, we don't want them to be able to see this box, going around the environment, because it would look silly. So we want to have nothing there. So what we can do is we can create an empty game object. Okay, so we'll call this I don't know, the collision box or something, right? So as you can see, that there is nothing. If I click on this, you can see that I can't really do anything with this because it's an empty game object. It just has a transform. It doesn't have a renderer, so it isn't actually showing anything. Now that's good because we don't want to show a box. We just want this kind of invisible box to follow the player around, okay? So on that note, what we're going to do is add another box collider. So box collider 2D, make sure it's 2D. I always forget this.
We're so used to working with like 3D models that it's sometimes like, oh right, yeah, we're actually in a 2D environment now.
Yeah. So we're going to add a 2D box collider. As you can see, these lines have appeared. Now these lines, as I said before, these are the collider itself. So we can actually edit the collider. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scale this down so we have a box. Okay, so we have a box. I'm going to move this just down here so we have a box that is just underneath the player's feet. Okay, so here, as you can see, we've got, I might make it a little bit smaller actually. Let's say there. Okay, so there we go. We have a box, okay, that sits below the character's feet. Okay, and it's a collider. So if I go back now, so as you can see, there's a box there. Okay. Now, just out of interest, what happens if we play this game now? So we have a character and it has a collision box here. Okay. Now, if I play this, you'll see that the character is actually kind of sitting on this box. Okay. So it is acting like
floating.
Yeah. So if I scaled this up a little bit, that big, right? as you can see, this is kind of the character is standing on this box. So how do we make this collider not do that? Okay, how do we make the collider not actually collide with the environment, but we want to detect collisions with it? Well, if you paid attention in the last few episodes, we talked about triggers, and this is exactly what triggers are for. So if I click is trigger, now we have this box kind of floating underneath the character, and we can actually start, checking for collisions with this box. Okay, so I'm just gonna go into the character prefab again, and I'm going to turn on is trigger, and then come out of here and just click play. So now we should have, the character is sitting on here, and we just have a box that sits below their feet. Okay, so that's great. So now we can use this box because it should. We basically want something that says, right now the box is touching the floor. So we want to be able to say, no, they can't jump. They can't jump now. But now they're in the air up here. We want to be able to say, oh, it's not touching anything. So yeah, sorry, they can't jump. So if that makes sense, I might have got the wrong way around. But
yeah. So when the box is touching the ground, you can jump. When the box is not touching the ground, you can't do like a double jump. Basically, you can't continuously jump.
Exactly. So let's make a script. Okay, the most basic script for doing this kind of collision check. So we'll just call this maybe can jump or something.
Yeah,
it's not a good name. It really is.
I mean, you can
terrible
tell what the actual script does, though, so it makes sense.
Yeah. So if we open up the character prefab again, okay, I'm just going to click on here. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to move this can player jump script onto the character. Okay. Actually, ignore me. We don't want to do that. We want to go onto the collision box. Okay, because we want this script to be able to access this component here, this box collider 2D. This is so. The reason we went through components quite a lot in the beginning is because now we're starting to get to the point with scripting where we're talking about, oh, we want to access this component, and then we're going to reference this component. We're going to use these. That's why we talked about it. So we want to be able to drag this onto here. So I'm just going to drag this onto the collision box. Okay. So now we have the box collider that's a trigger, and we have the script on the same game object. So there's these two components. So this thing here can access this thing here. Okay, brilliant. So let's just go back. I'm going to save this, and let's start editing the can player jump script. So this, again, it might take some time to, as it says.
Oh yeah, Unity loading times, always the bane of our existence.
It really is. It gets to the point where you have a large project and you go, oh, Unity's starting up. I'll just go put the kettle on you. So, anyway,
that's literally that's me in the morning, just open up my project and go, let's go make a cup of tea.
So we've had a look at on trigger enter before, right? We're going to basically use the same function. So void on trigger enter 2D. Don't forget the 2D bit. Okay, and we're going to public void on trigger exit 2D. Okay, so do you remember this on trigger enter is when the trigger starts colliding with something, okay, and the exit is when it stops colliding with something. So you can imagine if the player's in the air and then they drop down to the floor, this on trigger enter is going to go, oh, they've just hit the floor, brilliant. On trigger exit is when they've just left the floor from jumping or something, if that makes sense. So the collision does not exist anymore. So based on that, we can make a new bool, right, and call it something like can jump, and we're going to set this to false initially. So when they hit the ground, okay, so the player has just, the collision box. Remember, the collision box is just this invisible box that's below the character. Has just entered a collision, so it's just started colliding. Okay. And this one here is, instead of just entering, it's just exited a collision. So it's just stopped colliding. Okay, easy peasy. So when it just starts colliding, so this means if that box is colliding with something, it must be touching the ground. Okay, or something else. Right? Who knows? We could,
I think it's like if you
we could filter this out and do things like if the tag is equal to the floor, but I think for just now, like, it's going to be fun. We'll get around to it. We'll see if it's an issue, and if it is, we'll solve it.
I think I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. It might be a little bit of an issue when collecting diamonds, as you might like it might trigger that, and then you could jump, but
or for example, if you hit the top of an enemy,
I guess you would be able to jump off the top of the enemy in real life, though.
So
that's a strange thought.
So because it's a trigger, you would have to. There's a very short period of time that you could be falling through the diamond and jump. So we could filter that out. For now, I'm just gonna leave it and hope for the best. But hey, at least we're aware of this. Okay, that's the best thing. As long as you're aware of these issues, it's fine. We'll sort them out later. Anyways, so yeah, this collision box has just entered a collision, so they just landed. So can jump should be true because they're on land. And this is when they're in the air. Can jump equals false. So what we can do to test this is I've just saved that. I'm going to go over here. And if you click on the collision box, you'll see that there's a little tick box here for can jump. Okay. So if I click play, we should be able to see, if you look here, it says that yes, we can jump. But if I jump into the air, you can see that it turns off. And it only comes back on when I touch the floor. Okay, so, and as you can see, it moves ever so slightly here. So here, for example, the character is over here, but the box is here. So that's a bit tricky for us. What we could do, and there's a much better fix to this, but quite frankly, I am lazy. I'm just going to widen this here. Okay, so we have a wide box now. Okay, so now that's a bit better. I mean, there is a better fix. It's fine. It'll be fine. So now, as you can see, we've got this working. So we can essentially, in our the script that does the jumping. I can't remember exactly where that's done. I think it's in here. It'll be character movement. In this script, we can essentially tell it to look at this thing here, okay, and say, is that ticked? If it is ticked, then you can jump. If it's not ticked, then don't jump. That's all we have to do. Okay, so we need to be able to reference this thing here. Okay, and again, this is why we're talking about components. How do you reference this entire thing, this can player jump? Okay, well, it's actually, I think we've already done this before, but it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so this might be a bit tricky to get your head around, but you just do public can player jump. Let's call this can jump script. Okay, so what does this do? Okay, if we go back to our editor, now what's going to happen is where is it? Yeah, you can see can jump script, and we have an empty slot here that we can drag something into. Okay, so what we can do is we can essentially just drag this into this box here, and then we can reference this. We can say, if this thing here, this component, we can put it in there. Hopefully that makes a bit of sense. This is why we talk so much about components at the start. So we have an object that sits under this character as a child that has a component called a can player jump. Okay, how we're referencing that is it's just a public variable. Now, if anything's public in Unity, usually it means that it appears in the inspector and we can start dragging stuff in there. So all we need to do is just be able to drag this component into here. So then when the script starts, Unity knows exactly what we're talking about. It goes, oh, what's that thing called can jump script? Oh, it's that thing you dragged into the box. That's what it is. Okay, I get it. So how do we do that? Well, I'm gonna open up the prefab, and I'm going to just drag this into here. Okay, Unity's clever enough that if you drag in the object, okay, it'll go, oh right, you mean something on the object. So that's all we're doing. And now, as you can see, it's referencing that thing. It's populated it with something, right? So now the script knows about that component, right? So whenever we do something like, well, I'll show you. Okay, if we do debug.log can jump script dot can jump. So what the dot is saying here is it's saying this thing here, dot can jump, because it's public. Okay, so this is getting the can jump script, the can jump variable of the component that is attached to this collision box. Now, admittedly, that might be quite hard to get your head around, but it's just the way entity-based components or entity-based systems work. Component-based systems is we have a component on this object, we are referencing that in here, okay, and this thing here, this can jump script, is referring directly to this component here, right? And the can jump script dot can jump is referring to this particular variable can jump on this particular component. And I know I'm going through this quite, I don't know what the word is, quite meticulously, yeah. But it is quite tricky to get your head around. This is one of the things that absolutely stumped me when I came to Unity. So my background before Unity was programming software, right? Okay, I used to love making software, but then I came to Unity and I thought, hey, I just want to be able to access another variable in another script. How do I do that? And because Unity is all about components and entities and all this kind of stuff, this is the way you have to do it, is you have to reference it as a public variable. And admittedly, there are other ways around it. Okay, we could, for example, make this, and I'm not going to get into the details, but we could make this a static public variable, and we could access it directly through there because there's only ever one instance of this script. We could do something like that. There are other ways, we could actually set a property in here directly. We could move the code in here directly. You could reference the transform and get it through the transform itself. There's tons of ways of doing it, but this is generally the pattern you see. Okay, and that's why we're using this particular approach. So anyway, I've gone off on the tangent again. so we've got debug.log can jump script.can jump. So what we need to do is essentially just watch the console. Okay. Now, hopefully, the console should be saying, yeah, there's a lot of true statements here, and now false, true, false, true, false, true. So this is actually all it's doing. As you can see, this, I'm pointing at the screen like you can see my hand, but as you can see over here, this can jump is exactly lined up with this because it is referencing the same thing. Okay, that's all this is doing, is it's just reading this checkbox here. That's all that's happening. Nothing fancy. That's all we're doing. And now we have access to that checkbox. Okay, this thing here, we can actually put it in our jump system. Okay, so if get key down keycode.space, make the character jump. So this is the bit that makes them jump. Remember us talking about this gust of wind, well, we can add another condition and say if they can jump, then do this. So let's add a little bit of comment, but only if they can jump. That's it. Okay, that's all we have to do. So if they can jump, then jump. If this thing is false, right, it's not turned on, then they can't jump. So let's try this out. Okay, let's try this out. That's all we're doing here. It's nothing fancy. And there are other ways of doing this, obviously, but that's all we want to do, really. So now, if I jump, as you can see, you can probably hear me. I'm tapping space quite rapidly, and I'm not flying anymore. I'm only jumping. Okay, so that's good. We have it. We have it so the player can't jump. Well, they can jump. Sorry, they can't fly. So yeah, so I have a little character, and obviously we need to now change the layout of the level because there's no way I'm jumping up that wall. As you can see, though, that
you can climb the wall.
Yeah, as you can see, though, there is a bit of an issue because this collider is colliding. Oh, sorry, the trigger is colliding with the wall. Okay, so again, to kind of fix that, we could get around it by reducing the size of this, but then we have the issue of if the sprite is flipped, you know, it's a bit tricky. For now, let's just reduce the size, and we will see if this works. If it works, that's fine. But there are other intricacies to this. I mean, there are other ways of doing this, but let's go with this one. Okay. So now, hopefully, you shouldn't be able to wall jump. Oh, hang on. No, you can't wall jump, but you can jump. Yeah. So that's fixed. Brilliant. So there we go. We've fixed the jumping stuff.
Yay!
Yippee. Hooray! You know, but obviously we'd need to tweak this so that the jumps are higher and this kind of stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's the jump stuff sorted. Obviously, you know, on your copy, if you're following up this project and you know you're doing this stuff step by step, then on your copy you can actually tweak the jump speed here. You can whack this up to 10 or something, you know, and then you'll have a bigger jump. I might just leave it on 10 because it's easier. For now, though, well, that's a very high jump. I might just leave it on this, but obviously on your end, you can play around with these values, and yeah, there we go. So that's yeah.
That's
So,
one thing ticked off.
Yeah. So one thing I just noticed then was when we collected a diamond, I think 1 out of 4, there was an interesting thing that happened then. The door spawned. Oh no, that's okay. There's some bug there, and I think it's to do with the trigger itself because it's activated twice. But that's okay. I'm happy. I'm happy with that for now. So that's the first thing. The jump thing is sorted. Okay, we can deal with that. Yeah. So there are a couple of other things. So I think one of the easiest ones is to just fix the door. So at the moment, I think we have just, you know, when we collect all our stuff, the door appears, and that is the door. It's a circle. Okay. So
it doesn't quite fit in with the aesthetic of the level.
Yeah, so I'm just going to swap this out for a nice looking door. So I think there is a door in here somewhere.
Do we have doors? Oh, there are doors.
Oh yeah, there is a door. Door closing, door opening. Oh, we've even got animations. Okay.
Wow.
So we have this. This is our door. Okay, this thing here.
Very tiny thing.
Zoom in for you. We have this door. So I'm just going to import this as a sprite. You know, by this point you're probably sick of me doing this process. But yeah, so it's a single sprite. It's 32 pixels per unit. Let's go for no filter, and let's turn off compression. Apply that. So we should be able to drag. Oh, maybe not. Let's pop that there. Change the sprite to this thing, and boom, we have a door.
We have a door. Oh, yeah, that's so cute.
So we have an actual door that actually fits in quite well with the aesthetic of the game. I'm quite happy with that. So maybe we'll put it there or something.
That. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, so we have a door. Now at the moment, we'll just turn this off. Okay, let's just test the door works. I mean, there was a little bit of a bug there with how the door worked, but it's okay. We can figure that out at some other point in the next episode. Or now, I don't know. I think it was because I don't know. Yeah, see how there's a diamond here.
Yeah, there's an extra diamond. It said it's counted 4, but we've actually collected 3.
How interesting. So I think that's something to do with the trigger we just added, the collision box, because it might be triggering it twice or something.
Possibly.
Because essentially, yeah, what we'd be doing is on each. I think this the diamond collection script is on the. Yes, the diamond collection script here. Let's have a look at this script. On trigger enter 2D. So this is. Yeah. Okay. So I think this might be triggering twice because of the
two
extra one. Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know.
That might be a next week fix.
Yeah, that's okay. I can have a look into it.
I'm sure it won't. Sure, it's just a little thing we need to change.
Yeah, that's fine. We can sort that. We can sort that out. So we've got a door now that actually looks okay. As you saw, it fits with the aesthetic and stuff. Yippee! We can fix that bug later on. I don't want to focus on it too much for now. Death when we fall off the level. Okay, so we need to modify the level a bit. So, for example, let's just, I can't remember where the, oh yeah, background and foreground. Okay, so I'm going to open up the old tile map thingamajig. I can never remember where this is. Oh, there we go, tile palette. Okay, so I am going to just like delete some stuff here. Okay, so let's get the eraser and just delete. Oh, actually, let's put it in a more convenient location. Let's put the. Let's just put it here. So there is a big old gap here. If you fall down this gap, you are dead.
You're going into the void.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's just make this a little bit prettier. So I'm just gonna draw a nice little descent here to the abyss. Okay, so here we go. And this background stuff here. So I'm going to click on the background, and I am just going to actually just paint this in. So paint this in. So we have a nice drop to the abyss where if you hit here, you die. So what we want to be able to do is if the character, so I'll show you this visually. If the character is here, okay, and the character, drops below a certain level like this. If the character drops below here, let's say, then they die. So what you can do is look at this Y value here. Okay, so I'm just going to close this because we don't need it. But as you can see, the Y value of the character here is minus 7.4. So you can imagine them falling down. And look what's happening to this Y value. Okay, it's decreasing. So we can say if the Y value is less than, let's say, minus 7, then they're pretty much dead. Okay, so we can do that. We can just say, or if they hit here or something, we could say they die. But let's say minus 7. So if they go below minus 7 on the Y, then they die. Okay.
Yeah.
So for now, I'm just going to place the character here because I don't want to keep jumping. So, but let's alter the what's it called, the death detection script. Okay, this one here. So I'm just going to double click on this to open it in Visual Studio, which for some reason I closed. How silly of me.
Oh, there.
So at the moment, if we collide with an enemy, then they die. Okay, so I tell you what, let's make this a new function. Let's say player die or something. I don't know. And essentially, we're just going to take this. Okay, I'm just going to type in player die. And please go away. Thank you. So what we want to be able to do is we want to constantly check, right? If you think about this, we want to be able to ask the question always, are you less than this certain Y value? No. Okay. Are you less than this certain Y value? Yes. Okay. Then die. Okay. So what we want to be able to do, is we can do transform.position.y is less than, let's call it, I don't know, fall off screen Y or something. Okay. And we'll make a new public variable. We'll call it fall off screen Y. Set this to, what was it, minus 7? Minus 7. But now we have this, and this is just -7, right? If it's less than this, if their Y position, okay, so remember the transform.position means this transform and this position, okay? So the transform in this case, where this is attached to the player, so we're saying the player's transform and the position of that transform, if the Y value, the up and down of that position is less than this thing, then player die. Okay, so just do player die. Indentation's a bit strange there, but that's okay. Oh, it's because I've got an equal sign here. Don't know why. So it's just going to call this, and it's going to reset the position. Okay, so that's all that's happening here. Nothing fancy. So now, as you can probably see here, something should pop up here. Fall off screen Y is -7. Okay, so let's try this out. If I fall down this giant pit, do I die?
Doom.
Yeah. So if I fall down here, yeah, it kills me and respawns me. So that's another little bit of polish just to make the game a little bit
more rounded.
Yeah.
Okay, because in our original kind of environment, we didn't have like a drop off, but you might want to have like more risks or like different aspects to your game, which you do need this function. Like you don't want your player to continue. That was not words. Continuously fall out of the world. It's like it's like catching an error basically.
Yeah.
You just want to account for all possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. And as Danny says, I think the whole point of this series is not to show you how to make this game. It's to show you. I think we said this at the beginning. This is a whistle-stop tour of Unity's features. This polished stuff, we're largely just going through and making stuff a little bit neater. But the idea is that after this series, you should be able to take all the stuff you've learned and be able to expand on this. Make your own levels and make this level as intricate as you can and add as many diamonds as you like, put enemies everywhere, have these bottomless pits that go to anything. I mean, you might even want to remove the death thing in this case and have like a secret room down here or something. doing stuff like that. That's what I don't know. It's kind of why
it's all part of like the creative kind of aspect of it. You can know we're teaching you the fundamentals of how to build a game. It's up to you how you want to design that game.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say if you've got a weird, strange idea, I say go for it, because it's that kind of stuff which is why I love games development. I love building strange things. Some of the games I build, there's always some kind of secret room or something.
I always love secret rooms.
Yeah, so there's tons of different ways you can improve this, and hopefully it gives you the tools to understand some stuff. I think the next thing maybe to look at is the lives. I think so. I'm not sure if we do actually have lives. I'm not sure we do actually, because this is the death detection, right? So if the player dies, then it just resets their position. But it would be good if we had something like, okay, you've got 10 lives, and when you hit 0, something happens. It says, "Oh, game over" or something. So this is actually quite easy to code. We can start with, we can say player lives equals, I don't know, 5 or something. So start with 5 lives. Now, when they die, so they have died. Set the position back to the beginning. Oh, Jesus. The beginning. And decrement lives. Okay, decrement lives. So just do lives equals player lives. Sorry, player lives minus. You can do minus equals 1. You can do player lives equals player lives -1. I am just going to do minus. Okay, player lives minus. And just for now, I want to just show what their lives are, just so we can have a look and see what's going on. Okay, so at the moment when you start the game, you should be on 5 lives, and you can change this. It is here. You can start off with 3 lives, for example. So when the player falls down this pit, it goes to 4, right? So we now have 4 lives. If I hit this enemy, I go to 3 lives, okay? And then 2 lives. And then 1 life. Okay. And then I die. 0. I'm dead. So I think so what we need to be able to do is actually view. So at the moment, yeah, sure, we can see it in the console, but if you're playing the game, there's no way you can actually see this on screen. So wouldn't it be good if we had something where it actually shows up here in the top left? Oh, you have this many lives left or something. Wouldn't that be great if we could actually do that? Well, we can do that. So what we can do is, and this is one thing I've been wanting to talk about for a while actually, is canvases. So if you want some text on the screen that follows, I don't know how to explain this. It follows the screen around. So
basically, like, it's in the top left. As you move, it will stay in that top left rather than like be a solid thing within the environment.
Yeah. So if you've ever played,
slider.
If you've played any game ever, right? mostly 3D games, right? If I don't know, say you're playing a racing game, right? You down the bottom right, you might have your speedometer, how fast you're going. Up the top left, you might have, I don't know, the track or something, and they are always in the camera's view. They're always in the top left and bottom right of the camera. So how do you do this? How do you build a UI, a user interface? That's what these canvases are for. Okay, so we are going to make a canvas. Okay, so all you have to do to make a canvas is go to game object and go to UI. Now you can click here for canvas. You can click any of these and it'll build a canvas for you. I'm going to click canvas because we want a canvas. So if I click this, we now have a canvas, and I'll call this, I don't know, UI canvas or something. As you can see, there's not much. You're probably like, yeah, sure, but where is it? That's making sense. You have to actually add stuff to the canvas before you can actually see it. So I'm going to click here to game object and go on UI, and I'm going to go on text. Okay, I might do, what do you reckon, Text Mesh Pro or text?
What do you think? What's the best one to use?
I think the best is Text Mesh Pro, but it's let's go Text Mesh Pro for script. So I'm going to click here for Text Mesh Pro. It comes up with this little dialogue. Just click import TMP essentials. Okay, it needs some stuff to do its thing, right? We have to. So the difference between Text Mesh Pro and the standard text is Text Mesh Pro has some better features, like you can have alternating colors or different fonts and different font styles and different kind of stuff.
It just opens up a bit more creativity.
So here you go. That is the text. It's a pretty big. As you can see, the canvas is enormous.
Huge.
Yeah, and I think there is a way around this, but I just go with it. I'm like, sure, yeah. So you can actually click on the rect tool for here. So you can click on this, and it makes your life a little bit easier. You can move it around. So I'm just going to move it up in the top left, and you can scale it down. You can do whatever you like. I'm just going to make it this big. Here is the anchor, right? So the anchor is basically where this thing will sit if the screen size changes. So if I move this around, as you can see, it doesn't sit in the top left if I move the screen size. Now, if I set this anchor to the top left, so top left, this one, it follows the top left. So this is how you designate, oh, I want this to be in the top left, and I want it to stay in the top left. Okay, this will now follow the top left. I could alternatively do the bottom right. Okay, and now this, if I plop this down in the bottom right, okay, all the way down here, okay, now if I change the screen size, it always stays in the bottom right. But in our case, I think it probably makes sense to have it up in the top left.
When you always see score or like lives in the top left.
Yeah. So you can imagine this as being something like, lives equals 5 or something. It's not the best, but it works. Now you can change properties of the font here, so you can change the text manually. You can change it to whatever these are, like quotes and stuff like that. There's a ton of different options, and I'll leave you to figure them out. But for now, we're just going to change the font size. So the font size controls well how big this text is. So I'm going to go for maybe that big, something like that. And you can set it to bold. So now we have some bold text. Okay, that is sat here. Well, I say sat here in the top left.
Oh yeah, we forgot to anchor it back.
Sat here in the top left of the screen. Okay, that says lives equals 5. Right. So I'm just going to rename this and call this something like lives label or something, or lives text. Okay. But yeah, that's all the canvas is it allows you to do stuff like this. You can, for example, have you click on the canvas, go to game object, go to UI. You can have all kinds. You can have buttons, sliders, scroll bars, whatever you like, really. You can have a button. So for example, here's a button, and you can change the text of this button to I don't know where the text is. I think it's underneath here. You can change it to I don't know, sausages or something. So now you have a button with sausages. You know what I mean? Like, and we can move this wherever we like. We can put it anywhere on the screen. But that's how you build user interfaces. Yeah, I just seen Chris is in the chat. So hello to Chris. Yes, big up Chris. Yeah, so essentially, yeah, that's what we can do. We can do that kind of stuff. And now if we play this game, it's pretty boring because this never changes. But as you can see, this thing follows the camera. Doesn't matter where we move, we always have it up here in the top left. We could, for example, have 3 heart symbols, and we could delete them if you lose a life, that kind of stuff. But the question is, how do we update this? How do we actually make this represent the actual lives that we have? Okay. It turns out it's easy, right? Because we've already talked about referencing components and that kind of stuff. So all we have to do is have a reference to this thing here, okay, which is a text mesh. This is a component, and it is a text mesh pro text. Okay, now basically this is it's confusing, but this is this is the script we want to be in. Ignore me. If we do public, and I think it's TM Pro, so TM Pro is text mesh pro. Text mesh pro dot text. I think it's, I never remember this. It's text container, maybe. Oh no, TMP text. I think that's what it is. Okay. Now that thing, this thing here, refers to this type of component, this text mesh thing here. If you're confused about this, don't worry. It confuses the hell out of me as well. That this thing here, this let's try it out. A text mesh pro text in the script is actually a tmpro.tmp text. So this is the lives text. Okay. If you're using basically instead of the like the text mesh pro stuff, you're using the standard text, then it is a just to cover all bases here, it is not a TMP pro, not TMP text. It is a Unity engine .ui .text. Okay. Clarification. So if you had the standard one, it's this thing. If it's the text mesh pro stuff, it's this weird stuff here. If you're confused about that name, don't worry, it confuses me too. But this is for sure referencing some type of text. So for example, we want to pass in this one. We want to say, I want you to change this component here. Now we've already done this with the collision box. Remember, we had the can player jump thing. We're doing the same thing, but we're saying this component here. We're just saying this type of component, right? So we can do the same thing. We have this lives text, okay? And and where is it? It's on the character, isn't it? So we can open up the character, and yeah, the death text in script here. As you can see, it's got this LiveText here. So if I go back out to here and I drag in the LiveText object here, okay, then it fills there. It fills it up, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Okay. Now, how do we actually change this text? Well, this is the easiest part of it all, right? All we have to do, and I'll just show you how to do it, is we just do LiveText, which is referring to the thing we just dragged in, dot text equals whatever you like, right? We could change this to time, for example. Just to show you that we can put anything we like into this. Now this definitely won't be lives equal 5, but as you can see, we are changing this text by referencing it. So what's happening is this lives text variable is referring. Unity does this. As I'm clicking this, it's showing what that thing is referencing. Okay, so here, if I click on lives text, it highlights it there on the left. So it's referring to this thing here, this component here, and it's saying change the text of this. As you can see, the text is going wild. It's actually changing the text as if we did it in the inspector. So we can set this to whatever we like, okay? But in this case, we want to set it to, okay, we want to set it to something like, when we first start up, we want to do something like lives text equals, lives, and then plus lives. So this is just saying player lives equals that. Oh, it's complaining because that's okay. I'll just use string interpolation. Okay, so this is saying, what's this complaint? Yeah, this is because I am silly. I think this is because, yeah, I'm doing dot text. That's me being silly. So we're saying the text of this thing is equal to lives and then the player lives, and we can essentially just copy this and shove it here. When they die, just set it in here as well. So now whenever they die, we just set this text to whatever it says. We're just saying lives equals whatever. So let's test this out. Let's try intentionally fall off here. Okay, 4, yes, brilliant. That's a very high jump. 3, yeah. 2, and then if we yeah, there we go. Okay, 0, and as you can see now, it goes to -1, which makes no sense. So essentially, what we want to do is when this player dies, we want to do something like if player lives. So let's do this. Okay, let's first decrement the lives. If player lives is equal to 0, so this means they have no lives left. So this is game over. Okay. Now in here, you could do whatever you want. You could put up a fancy screen saying, "Oh, game over. Please try again." Or something. Yeah. Beth
there
says,
are so many different ways you could do game over.
Yeah. Beth says, "I like the -1 lives feature." Yeah. Well.
You never really
good.
die.
Yeah, it just keeps decrementing. Yeah. So yeah, we could do whatever we like here. For now, let's just do livetext.text equals game over, and then just return. So return is saying, I don't want you to carry on running this. I want you to immediately stop. Don't run any of this. Okay. So let's test this. I mean, it's not much of a game over screen. But let's do this. So let's just run this. So we fall off here, and then we drop down here, and we die. We die again, and then we die again, and then we die. And as you can see, there's clearly some issue here because we collided twice because of the collider underneath the player. So we could have a condition here that says if it's less than or equal to 0, and that would kind of fix it as well. Yeah, and we essentially say game over, and we would reset some stuff here. But I think it's probably worth delving into that probably next week with the whole bug fixing stuff.
Yes.
I think largely we're just focused on stuff that is pretty quick to fix here and polish. I think probably the last thing we need to look at, and I think we just have enough time here.
Even if we go over a bit.
Yeah, just enough time here is to talk about. So yeah, next week we will talk about these. It's probably going to be bug fixing, I guess.
Bug fixing and any questions.
Yeah. So we've fixed the door, but the door doesn't actually do anything at the moment. You know, wouldn't it be good if the door actually did something? So because at the moment it does nothing. So the door appears, right, and we want to be able to do something like once you reach the door and you press a button, it loads the next level. It allows you to go on to the next level or something. Okay. So we can make a new script and we can call this, I don't know, door behavior or something.
Door behavior, I love that.
I don't know. And we can whack it straight on the door here. Okay, so this is attached to the door, and we can do something like so we want to be able to detect if the player is currently standing at the door. How do we do this? Well, we can do it through triggers again. Right? We can say if they're, or we could say probably an easier one is to just say, are they within distance of this door? So if they're within a certain distance of this door and they press a button, then yeah, we could do something. Beth says that. Yeah, that's classic door behavior. Yeah. Get to the door, open it. Oh, yeah, classic door behavior. That's how I like my doors.
Yeah, that's great.
So essentially, yeah, we can in update. So this is running constantly. Remember, this is going at once per frame. We want to test. We want to say, is the player close to the door? We want to say, have they pressed up or something, or space, whatever, you know, we'll just say up for now. If they have, load a level. Easy peasy. Load a level, right? So we could, there are other ways of doing this. You know, you can use triggers. I'm just gonna, the reason I'm showing you this is just, it's another way to do stuff. You might find this interesting. So we could call this min distance equals, I don't know, if you're within one coordinate. So you can actually test this. So if we have we can get the player here. Where is the player? So the player is here. We're zoomed out just because the canvas is so big. But if we have the door and we have the door here, we can essentially move this character over here, and we can check the distance from the door. So if I move this, so we're currently on 8.34. If I move this to, what's that? Maybe 7.35. So it's roughly within about half a coordinate, I would say. So 7.5 there. The middle is about 8.3. So that is roughly about 0.7 or something like that. Okay, so we can say the min distance for now is 0.7 or something close to that. So firstly, is the door active? So we want to be able to say if this door is not enabled, so it's like this, then we don't want them to be able to go through the door, right? So we need to test that. So I think it's if I think it's active or enabled. Yeah, I think it's enabled. Is active and enabled. Enabled behaviors updated. Let's try this. We can always test this, right? This is the good thing about Uni. You can always do something like enabled and just test if it is actually enabled. In update, just by outputting it to the console. So we should be able to see now if this thing, so we get nothing and then we get stuff. That's great, because that means that actually this works by default. So we don't have to worry about that. So this code is not running when we tick it off, when it's not enabled, which is great, because that's exactly what we wanted. So all we have to do is say if this is the distance check, okay? We want to check if the player's position and the door's position are quite close together. Now, we can make this a little easier and say that the door position is equal to transformed position, because remember, this script is attached to the door, okay? So in this case, transform is referring to the door, right? And var player position is equal to, well, we don't know, right? So we need to reference the player somehow. We can do public game object player. Player is here, and we can do player transform position. Okay. So now in our door behavior, we can reference the player. Okay. So the door,
classic door behavior.
Yeah, that is some classic door behavior. But essentially, yeah, the door needs to look. We could do it on the player side. We could attach the script to the player and then check if the transformed position, the player's transformed position, is close to the door. But in this case, we're just doing it with the door because it's easier. So on the door, transformed position is referring to the door itself. So we need to be able to drag in the player. So we're going to drag in the player here. And now the door knows what the player is. The door here knows that this thing here that's highlighting is the player. Okay, I know it might make sense. I don't know. But we now know that is character. Beth says, I know classic door behavior when I see it. Well, yes, Beth, you are the
resident door behavioral expert.
The door official. Yeah. The official door person, I guess. Anyways, yeah, so now we've got the door position, we've got the player position. We can do a little check and we can say if vector 3, actually, I think vector 2 would work, but let's do vector 3 dot distance of door position and the player position. So all this does, this vector 3 dot distance, hang on, is that working? Am I being silly? Oh yeah, don't worry about it. It's less than min distance. Okay, so what this is saying, this thing here is getting the distance between two things. A door connoisseur, if you will, says Beth. Well, yes, Beth. I mean, I've met many door connoisseurs in my time, but none of them even come close to your knowledge of doors.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so this thing here is basically we have two positions, okay, and this is getting the distance between the two. So we have the door position, which is somewhere in the world, and the player position, which is moving around in the world. And we want to be able to get the distance between those. You know, essentially, the way I like to think of this, so you have two things, and you've got like some string, you know, like some yarn, and I don't know if this makes sense. It probably makes more sense to describe it like a measuring tape, because that's exactly what a measuring tape does. But you imagine you've got some string, right? And you're taking that string and putting it between the two objects, and then you cut it and then you measure the string. Or you buy a measuring tape, okay, and you measure the two distances between the two objects. In fact, that's what a measuring tape does, is it measures distance between two things, right? That's exactly what we're doing here. This is acting like the measuring tape. You know, we've got the measuring tape and we're saying, okay, put the measuring tape between the door and the player. And if the distance is less than this thing called min distance, then I want you to do something. Okay, so we can say they are in range of the door. Okay, so if they are in range of the door, and no, not that, and input.get key down, key code dot up arrow, yeah. So if they've pressed the up arrow and they're in distance of the door, they're within that distance, then do something. Okay, so for now we could do debug.log next level, please, or something. Right. So if they are in range of the door and they've pressed down the up key, then say next level. Okay. So let's just test this and see if it works, and then we'll get on to how to actually load a new scene, because we haven't done that yet, and I think that's quite important for you if you want to be able to expand this this game to support many levels, and then at the end of all the levels you can say, hey, you've won the game, or whatever, you know. Otherwise you'd just be building a very big level, and that's not that interesting. But well, I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, so say for example you have won this game and the door appears like this, and I'm pressing the up arrow here. Let's make it as loud as possible. And as you can see, nothing's happening. It doesn't say anything in the console. But if I get quite close to this door, and ignore these artifacts, that's fine. And I press up, it says next level, please. Again, this is a bit strange, and it's because basically on one of these sprites we're actually behind the door. We can fix this quite quickly, actually. I think setting
that was so strange.
I think we can set this by setting the ordering layer to something quite low. So let's set this to -5, and then let's set the background to -15 or something. So now we should be able to.
Shouldn't be any of that clipping.
Yeah, no clipping now. Essentially what was happening was the player was going behind it. So I think we talked about this before. So this ordering layer stuff is saying, like, the -15 is like very behind. I think Danny made this analogy of, it's like when you have something in Word and you know you've got you say center back. So we're saying the background is at the back, and
we want the background to be at the most back. I keep hitting on my
the most back. Yeah.
The most back.
The backest. The backest back you can possibly back. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, and then like the door is in front of that back, but still behind the player.
Yeah. So all we did is we sent the door backwards. So now it's -5. So now we have no issues. But anyways, yes. Yeah, so we have the door, and it is here. You know, if I'm close to it, if I'm not here, I'm here.
The backest.
Nothing happens. If I'm here, it says next level, please. Yippee! Wahoo! It works. And yeah, I'm just going to toggle this door off so we can actually do stuff. But that's essentially what we do. It's just that little check there. We're just saying if they're in distance and they press this, then next level, please. The next question is, how do we actually load a new level? Well, I think we only have one level at the moment. Okay, so let's make a new level, because we're going to be able to. We're going to have to load a new level. So let's make a new level. So you can do this by clicking New Scene. So remember, as we said in the beginning, scenes are essentially the same as levels. Unity refers to levels as scenes. Okay, so we're going to create a new scene or a new level, and you know we can basic 2D. We'll click on that, sure. And I mean, we're not going to make a level here. Let's make a very boring level and put maybe a square here.
Shapes
with
Ben and Danny again.
Yeah. So let's. I mean, it kind of looks like abstract art or something. I don't know. It's not a very good level. I mean, it's not very interesting, but it is a level. There you go. Very, very nice. So let's save this.
That's
so
some good shapes there, Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just going to save this scene. So I've just clicked save as. I'll go to scenes and I'll call this, I don't know, second level or something. Okay. So now if I save this scene and I save the project and then I go back to the main level that we were on, we want to be able to load the next scene in here. Now, bear with me, because off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think it's unityengine.scenemanagement.load scene. Yeah, so
I think that rings a bell.
Yeah, so we can go up here and put in using Unity Engine .scene manager. So if you want to do anything with scenes, you want to switch between scenes, load a scene in the background, it's all in this thing called scene management. Okay, so now we can do, just off the top of my head here, I think it's scene manager dot load scene, and then we put in the scene. Yeah, you can put in the strict scene name. So the scene name in this case is, what was it called? Second level.
Second level.
Yeah, we saved it as second dash level. I think.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we can check this by going to the project, go to our scenes folder, and yeah, this is called second level.unity. Okay, so this, we're just putting in the name, scene level. You can put in the scene number, and there is also, I think there is another way of doing it with .get scene by name. Yeah, so I think you can do it that way. I'm not too sure.
I've never seen it that way.
Yeah, they've changed it quite a lot. Back in the old days, you used to have to. There wasn't scene management. You just said Unity engine dot load scene. Yeah, back in the old days of Unity 4. Yeah,
I laugh every time you say that.
Yeah, it was crazy. Unity 4, right? You had Unity Standard and you had Unity Pro, and you could only activate shadows in Unity Pro. I remember getting Unity Pro for the first time in college, and I was like, "Oh my god, there's shadows!" It was amazing. It was great. So let's try this and see what happens. Okay, so I click on this door, and woohoo, we've won, right? And then I click this. Oh, it says second level could not be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings. Right. So as you can see here, it says it tried to load it and said it couldn't be loaded because it has not been added to the build settings. And Unity is kind enough to say to add a scene to the build settings, use file build settings. So let's do exactly that. So I'm going to tick this off.
Yes.
Go to build settings. And as you can see, there's no scenes in the build. So we can add the open scene. Okay. So this has added the main level scene to here. Okay. We can open up the what's it called? The second level, obviously. And we can open up the build settings again and add this scene. So now we have two scenes in the build. And do you remember me saying you can load a scene by a number? So that is the number. So this is scene index 0. And this is scene index 1. So if you don't, for some reason, if you like pain and you don't want to use, if you like pain and you don't like using this, you can put in numbers like this as well. So
I don't know. Using the actual name.
Yeah, me too. I forget numbers. So anyway, we've got two scenes here. They're in the build settings. So let's save this. Let's save the project and then click. Oh, actually, we've got to open up the old scene there. And then, yeah, let's toggle this door on and let's press out here. Up arrow doesn't work. Here, though, it loads our scene. So we are now on the second level. And that's how you go to the next level. Except your scene won't be, your level won't just be a couple of squares like this. It'll be obviously be another level with a character and all kinds. Okay, so yeah, that's how you load. There you go. That looks a bit better, I think. Looks like a kind of the beginnings of a QR code here. So
yeah.
So that's how you load new scenes. Obviously, your second level would be something looking similar to this, and you'd have very much the same thing. You can actually duplicate scenes. So if you click on main level, you can click. I think you can right click and do it. Maybe. Essentially, you can
copy and paste.
Yeah, you can do copy paste. You can press Control D to duplicate. The other way to do it is to just do File, Save As, and just give it another name. Call it third level. And now you have a level that looks exactly like the main level. You can do it that way. Yeah, that's how you do it. So now you could have a series of levels. So when you complete the second level, you load the third level. When you complete the third level, you go to the fourth level. And then when you complete the fourth level, you go to the win screen. Okay, and the win screen is just a menu that says, "Hey, you've won. What do you want to do?" You can start to see why scenes are quite useful now, because we could have a scene before this one, that has a menu that says play, options, exit, that kind of stuff. And when you press play, it loads up this scene. Okay, and when we complete this one, it goes, and that's what scenes are used for. That's why they're called scenes, not levels, because levels kind of implies that there's a world, like this. This is a level because it's got a world and it's got a character. A scene is a bit more abstract, it's the menu, it's a menu, it's a level like this. That's why we call them scenes. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I think we've gone over a fair bit, but
yes.
I wanted to...
Oh, not that bad.
Yeah, these are the things I wanted to cover today. But yeah, I think next time is mostly bug fixes.
Bug fixes, just tweaking. But hopefully, and we probably should be, by the end of next session, we'll be finishing this the Ben and Danni show. Like we.
Oh no.
Oh no more Ben and Danni show.
What a shame. No, it's all good. I've quite enjoyed going through all the features in Unity, and like I said, at the beginning of all this, the game itself isn't a very impressive game, but it does conveniently include all the features that you would like to use to build quite a complicated game in Unity. So using what we've taught you, you can build not just this game. You can not even expand this game. You can build your own game. You can maybe have a shoot 'em up or something like that. You can have all kinds. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this episode of the Ben and Danni show. And as we said, we'll just continue with tweaking and bug fixing, and we'll answer any questions that people might have if they have followed the series, creating their own game. So we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye, everyone.